Hi everybody, it's Lori again, and welcome back to my kitchen. Hey, if you're anything like me, you are looking ahead and you're just going, oh my goodness, Christmas is going to be here in just a couple of weeks, and I'm not ready. I don't know about you, I hope you all are ready, but I'm not ready. If you are like me and you are still looking for a few last minute special gifts that you can make yourself in your own kitchen, I want to share a really special recipe with you today, which would be perfect for gift giving. Okay, it's that time of year when we can still find fresh cranberries in our grocery store. You can also find them in the freezer section. So if you can't find fresh, you can use frozen. Not a problem. But the recipe I want to share today with you is Amber May's recipe for amazing Christmas jam. Now, Amber May has founded and runs a canning group on Facebook called SNUG, S-N-U-G, Canning to Preserve Our Future. And you can find this recipe that I'm sharing with you today and thousands of other recipes that have to do with canning right there in that one group. So Amber and I would love to just invite you into the family, and you can get all the support and have all of your questions answered, plus have access to thousands of very, very good canning recipes. Now, I do want to say that I do have permission from Amber to share this recipe today, but just wanted to make sure that you knew this is hers. So let's get started with our Christmas jam. 12 ounces of cranberries, 2 teaspoons of orange zest, and 1 orange peeled and sectioned. Now, if your orange has seeds in it, please remove the seeds and make sure to get all of that white pith off of the outside. You just want those good orange segments, okay? 16 ounces of strawberries. Now, just like I said, your cranberries can be fresh or frozen. Your strawberries can be fresh or frozen also. And quite honestly, your orange can be fresh or frozen. I had to get an orange out of my freezer today because I don't have any fresh oranges on hand, and that's how I store my citrus. I freeze them just for recipes like I'm doing today. So all of your fruit can either be fresh or frozen. We're also going to need 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and 4 cups of sugar. Okay, that's it. Easy peasy, right? Now, I'm going to take a little bit of creative freedom with this recipe today because I do not happen to have any strawberries on hand. I don't have fresh strawberries, and I don't have any frozen strawberries in my freezer. But what I do have is blueberries. So I'm personally going to be substituting blueberries for the strawberries in my recipe today. But I also want to tell you that canning recipes normally are very flexible in certain ways. And this is one of those ways that it can be really flexible for you. If you are like me and you don't have strawberries, you can use blueberries like I'm going to do. You could use raspberries in place of the strawberries. You could use blackberries in place of the strawberries. You could use pineapple or plums in place of the strawberries, okay? The main, important ingredient in this jam is the cranberries because that's what gives it the Christmas feel. Okay, so your secondary fruit is just kind of an enhancement of those cranberries, and you can use whatever fruit you have on hand. Any type of a berry or a plum or a pineapple, like I said, those are really good substitutions for that strawberry if you don't have the strawberries. So I'm going to page you down and I'm going to show you what I have going on here, and we're going to get this project started, okay? So as you can see, if I can get that camera in place, as you can see, I have my fresh cranberries in my food processor today. And I also put my orange zest in there, and I put my frozen oranges in there, but these have been defrosted, okay? They're totally soft and defrosted. And what we're going to do is we're just going to blitz that in your food processor or blender. Now we want them, I want to make sure that I have this thing locked on here, right? Something doesn't feel right to me. Hang on here, guys. Aha, it wasn't on there right. There we go. Anyway, we're going to blitz these in the food processor, but we don't really want to have them be liquefied. We still want a few chunks in there, so just kind of burst it a little bit until you get kind of a ground up consistency. So I'll kind of show you what I do here. There we go. I'd say that that is just perfect. Now, there was no water or juice in this at all. It was just the fresh cranberries, the fresh orange zest, and the fresh orange slices. And oh, that just smells so delightful already. I'm going to get this up to the camera so you can see the consistency. All right. So it's not liquefied, but it's chopped really well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that to a large pot, and I have a stainless steel heavy pot on my stove. So we're just going to get that right into our pan. Now, another thing I want to tell you is that there is a long-standing wives' tale that says that you cannot double, or you should not double, jam or jelly recipes because then they never want to set right. Well, I disagree with that totally. I double recipes all the time, and I am actually going to double this recipe today because I have enough cranberries and blueberries to do so. So I'm going to double my recipe. I'm going to get some more cranberries blitzed up here, my 12 ounces of cranberries, and my orange, and the zest I had already put in double on that last one that I had in the food processor. So both of my recipes worth of zest was in that other full food processor. So I'm going to get these just buzzed around a little bit. All right. That looks just about perfect. And we're going to get that into our pan also. Now, if you're using strawberries, you go ahead and you stick your strawberries into your food processor also, along with your cranberries and your orange. But I'm using frozen blueberries today, and I just really don't feel like I need to blitz them at all. They're going to be pretty soft, plus they're kind of small. And so if I find little chunks of that in my Christmas jam, I'm going to be fine with that. But if you want to, you could go ahead and you could blitz these also. If you're using blueberries instead of the strawberries, go ahead and blitz those in your food processor. But I'm just electing not to do that today. So I'm going to do my substitution here, my blueberries instead of strawberries. But if you have strawberries, you add those in with your cranberries and your oranges. And I'm going to get that in the pan. Now, let me clean up my area, and then I'll be back in a minute and we'll proceed. All right, guys, so I got my area cleaned up and I got my jars brought over. And I also did bring my canner over just in preparation to, in a little while, I will get it heated and ready. Now, this recipe is high acid. It is a jam, and so this just simply needs a simple hot water bath or steam can. As y'all know, I just prefer to steam can over hot water bathing. So I'm just using my pressure canner as a steam canner today, but you can do a regular hot water bath with this also. But anyway, so let's proceed now. We've got all of our cranberries and our oranges, and you know, if you did your strawberries or whatever, you got them all mushed up. I'm substituting the strawberries for the blueberries, as you know. And then we're going to add all of our wonderful spices. So I need to look at my recipe here and start in order. We have a 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, ground cloves. And so since I'm doing my double recipe, I'm going to do a full teaspoon. I do have a 1/2 teaspoon, or let's see, I got to think about this again. A 1/4 teaspoon, so double that is a 1/2 teaspoon. That's why I have the 1/2 teaspoon measurement. You guys, sometimes my brain just don't work right. Anyway, so double recipe would be 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. And then we have 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. So double that and we would have a 1/2 teaspoon. And you all know that I love cinnamon, so I'm actually going to add more than just a 1/2 teaspoon because I'm not afraid of cinnamon at all. So I'm going to do my 1/2 teaspoon, and then I'm going to fill that up again, and I'm going to do a full teaspoon just because we love cinnamon. And then we have our allspice, 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. So doubled, it would be 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. And I'm really not afraid of that either, so I'm going to put in just a touch more of that also. Now, here's where I'm really going to kick it up. And this is optional, okay? You do not have to do this. It is not in Amber May's recipe. But we have a whole bunch of homegrown, home dehydrated jalapeno powder, okay? I dehydrated these and I turned them into just a dry powder for use in recipes like this. I am going to kick this one in the pants, and I am going to add some of my home dehydrated jalapeno powder. And I'm going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of that today. That's going to give it a nice bite. Now, like I said, that's completely optional. You do not have to do that. But this is what I'm talking about when I say that canning recipes are to your taste and very flexible. I'm going to get some of these things out of my way. All right, and this one goes over here. Okay, now we have all that goodness in our pan. Let's make sure that you guys can still see what's going on here. Maybe I'll move you just a little bit closer if I can. There. Hopefully that is a pretty good shot. So what we have is just all of our fruit and our spices in our pan. And we're just going to start on low, well actually we're going to start on medium heat, and we're just going to stir this and bring this to a boil. Okay, and you will want to stand here and you will want to be very attentive to this because you don't have any fluid in here. And so what you're doing is you're bringing the juices with the heating of the fruit, you're bringing the juices of the fruit out to create that boiling. And so you do want to be here and you do want to stir this quite frequently so that you don't have any burning, okay? So I will just bring this over medium heat to a boil, and I will be back in just a few minutes. All right, guys, I am back and I have brought my mixture to a boil. Now, I will tell you something that happened here. As I was cooking my fruit, I seriously didn't have any moisture in my pan at all. And I cooked it and cooked it and cooked it, and it was still really dry. So I ended up adding a 1/2 pint. I've got my jars ready. I added a 1/2 pint of water to my cranberries and blueberries, just simply because they just weren't creating enough juice on their own. So I didn't add very much water, but I did add a little bit of water, okay? So if you have that problem yourself, you know, when you're, let's say you're using your frozen fruit and, you know, as it's draining or whatever, you just don't have enough liquid from that frozen fruit, just feel free to add just a little bit of water. Now, you don't want to add a whole lot of water. Like I said, I only added 1/2 pint of water to mine, but it helped it kind of cook and do a little bit better, you know, because as it was so dry, it just wasn't cooking up really well. So just another little thing, one of those flexible things. Now, at this point in time, you have your fruit, you have all of your spices in there, and it's time to add some sweetener. Now, sweetener is very flexible also. I'm going to be using sugar today, but I'm not going to use the entire measurement of sugar because I had some homemade maple syrup. We tap our trees in the spring, and I had some homemade maple syrup in my refrigerator that I want to put in this jam today. So A double recipe would call for 8 cups of sugar. You know, a single recipe is 4 cups, a double recipe is 8 cups. I'm actually only going to put in 6 cups of sugar, and then I'm putting in about 1 cup of real maple syrup today. Now, like I said, this is very flexible. If you would prefer to use honey, you go ahead and use honey. If you would prefer to use an artificial sweetener like stevia or monk fruit, you go ahead. It is completely flexible, and it's completely up to you and your desires or your dietary needs, okay? But today I'm going to do a combination of sugar and maple syrup. So I'm going to get all that in. Now that my mixture is at a boil, I will add my 6 cups of sugar, and I'm using a combination of white sugar and raw sugar today. I suppose I could get you aimed back down there too at the pot, couldn't I? And after you get the sweetener in here, you're really going to want to continue to stir in also so that you don't scorch or burn your sugars, okay? So now this is that homemade maple syrup that I'm talking about. I have, I had a total of 8 cups of sugar that my double recipe was calling for. I put in 6 cups of granulated sugar, and I'm putting in 1 cup of real maple syrup. And of course, this is going to add some fluid to my berries too. But in the cooking process, that fluid will be cooked off, and it will still gel up really nicely. It just might take a little bit longer to cook it. So at this point in time, we're going to bring this back to a boil and just stir very, very regularly, okay? You want to really be attentive to this because it can burn, okay? So stirring and boiling until you reach a nice and thick consistency. And at this point in time, I don't think that I'm going to have to cook it very long at all. It does still kind of drip off of the spoon fairly easily. But there was a lot of natural pectin in this, in these cranberries and blueberries, and so I don't think I'm going to have to boil this very long at all. So I will let it boil for a few minutes, and I will come back and tell you exactly how long I boiled my double recipe for. Okay? All right, guys. So I'm back because I want to show you something that I am not really happy with, and what I'm not happy with is one of my ingredients. And that ingredient is those frozen blueberries, okay? And I think what's going on is I think I have old blueberries. You know, these have been in my freezer for a couple of years, and I think they're pretty well dried out, and they're just not cooking apart. And you can see in the bowl here, let's see if I can, you can see in the bowl here that they're just still, even though I've been cooking this for, probably 20 minutes between the fruit and then adding the sugar and cooking it more, they are just not softening up at all. So I think I have old blueberries. And so what I'm going to do is I have turned the heat off at this point in time. And this is all part of this adapting and just doing your own thing, okay? Now, if you have fresh ingredients, you're probably not going to run into the same problem that I have ran into today. But I have shut my heat off and allowed my mixture to cool for a couple of minutes. And I'm just going to take my stick or my immersion blender, and I'm just going to blitz this a little bit, just to kind of break up those blueberries because I'm just not happy with the consistency of it. All right, I'm not going to emulsify the whole thing. I just want some of those blueberries to be broken apart a little bit more. And I've brought over some water so I can kind of clean off my stick blender. All right, so now I'm going to turn my heat back on. I'll check it here. Oh yeah, I like this consistency much better. I'll show you. Get my bowl over here. I still have a very chunky jam and the way it should be, but not so many whole blueberries. Now there's a few still whole blueberries, but it's just not quite as apparent as what it was before. And so I'm a lot happier with this texture than I was with all of those whole berries in there. So that's just one of those things where you just adapt and you do what you need to do. So now that I have taken care of that problem and made myself a little bit happier, now I'm going to resume heating and boiling this and bringing it to the consistency that I want it for my jam. So we'll turn that burner back on, and I'll stand and boil and stir some more until it has reached the consistency that I want before canning it. So we'll be back in a few more minutes. All right, guys, I am back, and I want to give you another little tip. This is a secret of jam and jelly makers all over the world. You can see that my jam has quite a bit of foam going on inside. I have a pat or a tablespoon of real butter. You add that to your jam or your jelly, and it will help reduce that foaming that happens. It will not affect your jam or jelly at all in a bad way. You will not taste it. No worries at all. It just reduces the foaming on top of your jams and gels so that you don't have so much foam to skim off before you put it in your jars. Okay, and while I am here also, I want to try to page down. I got to keep stirring this so that I don't scorch it. I'm going to page you down so you can see what I have going on here today. Now I have an ice pack and I have a bowl. And this is my tester bowl, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to keep it super cold. And I just have these here sitting so that it doesn't kind of roll off or slide off of that ice block, okay? But what I do is I take, just to test my jam or my jelly, and I'll just dribble a little bit of that jelly or jam into that cold bowl and allow it to cool off quickly. And that will tell me if my jam or my gel is set. And I can see that I feel like I need just a few more minutes. I'm sorry, my hand is in the way here, trying to stir and show you at the same time. But you can see that my jam is still kind of running around the bowl a little bit. Okay? And so I feel like I need to continue cooking for just a few more minutes. If I had my candy thermometer, I would just cook this until 220 degrees, and I would be assured a good set. I'm going to clean this bowl out so that I can use it as my tester again. Get that back on that cold ice block. Now you want this at a good rolling boil, but it doesn't have to be spitting up at you. Well, now I've aimed my camera down and you guys aren't even seeing what I'm doing, are you? I'm sorry. I've got a really good rolling boil going on here with my jam, but it doesn't have to be boiling so hard that it spits and splatters at you. So go ahead and turn your heat down just to the point where you can keep it boiling, but it's not dangerous to you. And as you can see now inside of my pot, all of that foam is gone because I added that butter. It just took care of 100% of the problem. All right, so let's test this again. I'm gonna look at the back of my spoon and see how it's sheeting. Oh, it looks actually like it's getting pretty close. Let's test a little bit of this in the bowl again, in the cold bowl. Let that cool a little bit more. Yeah, that's getting closer. It's getting thicker. We're not hardly running anymore at all. Hopefully you can see that. I would say that is just about perfect. So we're going to go ahead and turn our heat off. Let me stick my ice back into the freezer. And we are ready to jar up our jam. Our beautiful Christmas jam. Now, I have not preheated my jars today, and so I'm going to do the same thing that you've seen me do before, where I'm adding extremely hot liquid to cold jars, so I'm going to do it very carefully. Now, I have wide mouth half pints today. So I really don't even feel like I need a funnel because of the wide mouth. So I'm just going to drip just a few drops of that hot jam into the jars to kind of get them acclimating to that heat. Just a little bit. You don't want to rush a whole lot in there because you can have thermal shock and your jar can break. And then I'm going to put a little bit more in. And I think my jars have acclimated, so I'm going to go ahead and just completely fill them. And you can bring these jars of jam to 1/4 inch headspace. All right, guys, so I've got my last 2 jars filled, and I'm going to get them capped up real quick here, and then we're going to get everything into the canner. Oops, throwing stuff around. All right, into a hot canner. Hot jars, hot food, hot canner. All right, I'm going to grab a rack for a second layer. I have enough jars today that I can do 2 layers in my Presto 23, so I'm just placing a rack in there so that I can place my second layer of jars. And we are ready to go. I'm going to place my lid, and I'm going to bring my canner to a full vent, and I will vent it for 15 minutes. And what that is doing is it is the same as hot water bathing. It's just steam canning. Instead of submerging my jars, I'm going to steam can them using my pressure canner. Just a full vent. When it comes to a full vent, I'm going to time it for 10 minutes. And then I will come back and show you the beautiful results of this lovely Christmas jam by Amber May. All right, guys, so I am back after my 10-minute steam can period. I vented my canner for 10 minutes, and then I let it cool off on its own once the lid lock pressure valve dropped and my emergency blow-off button dropped. Then I knew that it was just safe to crack open my lid. And when I say crack open my lid, what I do is I unlock it, and then I just lift it up, and I just barely put it off to the side. And then I allow my canner to cool for about another 10 minutes. Before then, I feel like it's safe to remove my lid. Okay, so I will show you these lovely jars of Christmas jam. Oh, and they're tinking right there in the canner already. The cool air of the room just went in and made a lot of them seal just right away. Beautiful. Such a deep, rich, lovely color. Now, if you used strawberries in yours, of course, yours is going to be a more nice red color with the cranberries and the strawberries. I, of course, as you know, use blueberries, and so mine is quite a bit darker, just simply because of the blueberries. That's music to my ears, those pops. All right, so I'm going to allow my jars to cool and seal, and I think after they've cooled quite a bit, I'm going to stick one in the refrigerator and chill it so that in an hour or so I can open it up and show you the jam results. So I'll just let these seal, and I'll be back in just a little bit. All right. As always, life seemed to get in the way, and it got really late last night. And of course, as I always say, jelly is like hot molten lava. That stuff is super hot, and it takes quite a while to cool off. And so it got late at night, and I thought, well, I'm not feeling up to doing this reveal. I'll do it in the morning. So here we are the next day. All right. Now, I do want to say that I never even stuck these jars of jam. I never stuck one in the fridge like I said I was going to do it. So this has just cooled and sealed at room temperature. So the reveal today doesn't even have, I guess, the boost of extra chilling, you know, which sometimes will firm things up. So this is seriously just room temperature. So I'm going to page down. I'm going to show you as I open the jar. I've got a little piece of toast here with a little bit of butter on it, or, well, you know, maybe a good portion of butter because it's butter. Anyway, all right, so we're going to open up our jar here. This is the Christmas jam where I made the substitution instead of using, you know, from Amber May's recipe, instead of using strawberries because I didn't have any, I used the blueberries instead. And I did emulsify that a little bit with my stick blender, just simply because my blueberries, I think, were a little bit old in the freezer, and so they weren't cooking into a soft mash type thing. They weren't cooking apart. They were really dry. So here we are, our finished results. I'm going to pour it, there's always a little bit of condensation, so I'm just going to pour that out onto my plate. But I want you guys to look at this, okay? Just canned yesterday. Look at how well gelled that is. It is not coming out of the jar. All right. This is a beautiful set. So I want to scoop a little of this out of my jar. You guys, look at this. Absolutely beautifully jellified. Oops, and I just dumped it right off of my spoon. Absolutely beautifully jellified. I'm going to just get that right off of my clean towel there. Without any added pectin. All right? Look at how gorgeous this is. Like I said, cranberries have a lot of pectin. Actually, blueberries have a lot of pectin also. Look at how beautiful that is. Christmas jam made with blueberries instead of strawberries. And I will page up here. Let me put my toast down just for a second so that, oops, I'm sorry guys. Hopefully, yeah, that's where we need to be. All right, so this is that piece of toast that I showed you. And as I always say, the proof is in the pudding. And remember that I have toasted my sourdough bread. And so you're going to hear a little bit of crunching. That's my toast. Mmm. Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have to wait. This is really good. Mmm. Oh my goodness, you guys. The sweet, the tart that gets you right here. Now I added a touch more cinnamon because I love cinnamon. I can taste the cinnamon. I honestly, one more minute. I gotta take another bite. Mm. Personally, I added that jalapeno powder, and I think I could have put a touch more in there because I'm not feeling a whole lot of heat. But of course, oh my gosh, you guys, that is so good. I think I'll just sit here and eat it right out of the jar for you. Anyway, I added that jalapeno powder. And our jalapeno powder is actually pretty strong because home dehydrated jalapeno powder intensifies. Oh, and there goes the alarm. Homemade jalapeno powder intensifies with storage life. And so I didn't put a whole lot in, but I think I could have done just a little bit more because I'm not feeling a whole lot of heat. But oh my goodness, I'm tasting a whole lot of goodness. This stuff is absolutely amazing. Christmas jam by Amber May. Feel free to make substitutions and change it a little bit to your taste. I think you're gonna love it. I love it. It's amazing. Come join us on Snug. We want you to be a part of the family. And until we meet again, God bless you all and happy candy.